my ex-wife, was having an affair with a coworker. I found out right before COVID. We were quarantined together, so we did some work to reconcile, and then things started going back to normal. We were on vacation in Hawaii, and I had to use her phone to add her vaccine passport to return. I saw she was still in contact with AP, and texted him the entire trip. At this point, I knew I was done. However, instead of blowing up and confronting her, I figured I needed to gather info and move on. As I stood there on that beautiful Hawaiian balcony, the contrast between the paradise outside and the betrayal in my hands was staggering. The waves were crashing outside, the sun was setting, it looked like heaven. But inside that hotel room, holding that phone, I was looking straight into hell. I did not just stop at reading the messages. I began digging deeper into her phone. And what I found was a web of deception far larger than a simple affair. I knew she was incredibly clever. So, I skipped the obvious folders. First, I opened her phone settings and checked the detailed battery usage. There, right at the top, was an app draining a massive amount of power, but it was nowhere to be seen on her home screen. It was a fake calculator app. A secret digital vault, disguised as a harmless calculator. I opened it. It demanded a passcode. First, I tried her birth date, incorrect. Then, I tried our wedding anniversary, incorrect. Finally, I converted the alphabets of her lover's name, her AP's name, into numbers on the keypad. The vault opened. My heart stopped. My hands started sweating. Right there in that luxury hotel room, there were hidden photos. Hundreds of them. Photos of them together in our house, on our bed, while I was away on business trips. They were drinking my expensive wine and laughing at the camera. In one video, they were laughing at a framed picture of our wedding day, mocking our vows. But the final nail in the coffin was a live photo taken just 2 days before our Hawaii trip. It was a selfie of them kissing, passionately, in the parking lot of her office. She was wearing the exact diamond necklace that I had gifted her for our anniversary. And the caption she wrote underneath that photo read, "Counting down the days until we get rid of him." But the nightmare did not end there. Deep inside that same vault, I uncovered a hidden, encrypted chat folder, where their true, horrific intentions were laid out. I began scrolling up through the history, and their monstrous plan unfolded. She had not just been texting him. She was actively planning a financial execution. I stumbled upon a hidden, password-protected banking app. Using a password I guessed from her usual patterns, I logged in and discovered she had been quietly siphoning off money, our joint savings account money, into a private offshore account for the past 8 months. Every single month, thousands of dollars were disappearing into a shadow account. My hard-earned money, meant for our future, was being turned into a fund for her next life. But the real shocker came when I opened her deleted media folder. There were screenshots of my personal business contracts and tax documents. In their chats, they were explicitly discussing how to forge my signatures. Absolute forgery. The AP was guiding her, step by step, on how to download corporate bank statements, how to forge my initials on fake loan documents, and how to create a paper trail that would make me look like a criminal. She, and her AP, who worked in finance, were planning to frame me for tax fraud. They wanted me behind bars, completely discredited, so that during the divorce, the court would strip me of everything, leaving them free to build their new world, using my entire life savings. They wanted to completely erase me. They talked about how I would look in a prison jumpsuit. They laughed about how broken I would be when the police showed up at my office. They had even joked in the texts about how clueless I was, enjoying the luxury vacation she made me pay for. One text from her said, "Let him spend his money on this trip, it is the last time he will ever feel rich." As I read that sentence, something inside me snapped. The sadness disappeared. The heartbreak vanished. A cold, calculated rage took over me, replacing the heartbreak. Did not panic. I looked over at the bed. She was fast asleep, breathing peacefully, completely unaware that her entire empire of lies was crumbling in my hands. First, I transferred every single chat log, bank statement, those kissing photos, the forgery documents, and every incriminating screenshot to my private cloud. The transfer was taking too long. It was 40 gigabytes of data. I stood there for 45 minutes, watching the progress bar. 80%, 90%, 100%. Done. I made sure I had 3 backups. One on my cloud, one email to my secret account, and one on a hidden drive. Then, using her phone, I initiated a full recall of the transferred funds back into our joint account. I withdrew every single penny from that hidden offshore account and pulled it back into safety. Then, I locked her out of the banking app by changing the security questions to things only I would know. Questions about my childhood, things she never cared to ask. Finally, I left a tiny digital virus, a corrupted file in her hidden folder labeled HawaiiMemories.pdf, which, when opened, would completely wipe her phone's backup drive. All her hidden chats with him, gone forever. She would have zero proof to defend herself when the time came. Then, I did the simplest, yet most devastating thing. I deleted the text thread with her lover, blocked his number, and deleted his contact entirely. I made sure there was no trace of him left on that device. The next 24 hours before we left were amazing. She woke up with a smile, completely unaware. But within 2 hours, the cracks started showing. She picked up her phone to text him. She couldn't find the thread. She tried searching his name, nothing. She tried typing his number, it was blocked. She clearly knew I had removed his contact, but she could not confront me about it, just in case I didn't, and it would expose her still sleeping and talking to him. If she asked me, "Why did you delete him?" she would have to admit he was there in the first place. She was trapped in her own silence. To watch her meltdown over the next day, and being jittery and frantic, watching her hands shake while ordering breakfast, seeing her constantly check her phone, walking away to the bathroom every 10 minutes to check if her signal was back, only to find zero network for his number, it still brings a tear to my eye. She looked pale. The Hawaiian sun couldn't warm her up. She was freezing from the inside out. Nothing was said on the many hours flight home. We sat next to each other in first class. I watched a movie, drank champagne, and smiled. She sat there staring at the blank screen in front of her. And she was shaking. Every time the plane hit turbulence, she flinched. But the real turbulence was inside her head. She knew something was coming. She knew the trap had been sprung, but she didn't know how big the trap was. When we finally landed, she tried to act normal. She tried to hold my hand. It felt like ice. I let her play her part, because I was playing mine. Anyway, I waited 3 more days so I could set myself up to leave, and got the rest of those texts and hidden messages she had elsewhere. Those 3 days were a masterclass in execution. While she was at work, trying frantically to reach her AP from public phones, I was moving. I met with the top divorce lawyer in the city. I laid out the 40 gigabytes of data. The photos, the offshore bank accounts, the forgery plans, the tax fraud texts. My lawyer looked at me, smiled, and said, "You just handed me a nuclear bomb." My legal team was completely prepared, and all of her twisted plans were reduced to absolute dust. On the 4th day, she came home to an empty house. No furniture, no clothes, and a stack of legal papers on the kitchen counter, along with a USB drive containing every single photo of her and her AP kissing in my parking lot. I'm just proud of myself for being calm, cool, and collected at probably the most painful moment of my life. I didn't scream. I didn't fight. I just let the silence do the talking. She tried to call, she tried to beg, she tried to deny. But how do you deny your own face kissing another man? How do you deny your own words planning to put your husband in prison? Her AP was fired from the finance firm within a week for corporate misconduct and accessing my documents illegally. Her reputation was ruined. Her financial trap became her own prison. She is but a memory now, and I have happily moved on.